Darren Neville, you are the mother and you are demanding justice. Tell us the story.
Yes, we are. We have been failed by all different bodies, especially the IPCC, who are supposed to interview and investigate the police, which they failed to do so. But it seems that once their minds are made up, there's no turning back. So they failed us in doing a proper investigation. And we are still fighting for justice. This is the first time we've been to Trafalgar Square. So it's important for us to stand with other people that are in the same predicament, and we're standing strong and proud.
How did Darren die?
Darren had an episode, like a mental breakdown. He was restrained by police. He ended up having a cardiac arrest, and then he sadly passed away 7 weeks later. He suffered severe brain damage because of that.
When did it happen?
He died, well, the incident happened on the 12th of March 2013, and then he was taken to hospital and he died 7 weeks later on the 5th of May 2013. He suffered a long 7 weeks.
What do you expect now? Justice and what else?
We want justice. We want those responsible to hold their hands up and say sorry. And just an admission that they've done wrong. They failed in their training. The police failed their training. That was found evident at the inquest. So, in my view, if the police have been found to be partly the blame, then something should be done about it. It shouldn't just be left, which is why we're still fighting today.
We are in Trafalgar Square. There is a demonstration for people who died in custody, and there is also a banner which is demanding justice for Habib Babsullah. You are the cousin of Habib Babsullah, who died in July 2008. How did he die?
He died in a routine stop and search by 5 police officers, doing a very short supposed arrest. He unfortunately was killed, and he was killed in less than 5 minutes.
How? Suffocation?
It's a combination of suffocation. They also put it down to heart attack because of the nature of the actual arrest itself.
What are you demanding now? To a trial for the police?
We've actually gone through the initial inquest, and the initial inquest to look at the cofactors to his death was actually abandoned. Took them a further 2 years to have an inquest again. That inquest came back with a very critical narrative. That gave us the grounds to then pursue the police. The only grounds left then were the gross misconduct route. They were completely exonerated despite the narrative from the inquest. We're currently now looking at 9th year on, we're looking at a civil prosecution against those 5 police officers.
Who was Habib?
Who was Habib? Wow.
What do you remember of him?
Habib was a loving father who had three children, and in fact, unfortunately they're not here, but what we have done is involve the children in the actual campaign itself. It just leaves that legacy.
Was he a British citizen?
Yes, he was. He was born and bred here.
Not an immigrant?
No, far from it. Not that it matters if you look at how immigration staff handle migrants as well. It's exactly the same thing. There has to be accountability.
Another banner is asking justice for Thomas Orchard, who died in 2012. You are the sister of Thomas. How did he die?
He was suffocated. Basically, the police used a restraint belt that's intended for use originally around the chest, but they used it around his entire face, which they said was to stop him from spitting or biting, but they suffocated him with it.
He was not in prison, he was in a police station.
Yeah, he suffered from schizophrenia, was behaving strangely, so was arrested by 7 police officers, was taken to a police cell. He was very heavily restrained, and this led to his death ultimately.
What about the investigation after this death? What result?
Everything's been a battle since this began. It took 7 months to get his body back, and since then we had a trial last year, in January of this year, and then we're going to have another one, a retrial, in January of next year. So it went on for 3 months, and it got thrown out for legal reasons with the jury, so we have to go through all of this again. So it's really traumatic for myself and my family.
Now, what do you expect?
I don't expect to find justice. This doesn't happen in the UK, it doesn't happen anywhere in the world. There's no accountability from the police, and the judicial system just, it doesn't hold anybody accountable for this, because they're protecting the police officer and they're protecting the system. So I have to find my own justice within myself, because it's not going to come from the system.
Why isn't something done about it? That's what we want to know. The evidence are there. Why is something not done about it? Justice for the people! Justice! When do we want it? Now! Justice for the people! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! No justice! No! No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace! This is what we are about! Justice for the people!
Kingsley Burrell is another young man who died in custody. You are the sister. Tell us the story.
Okay, in March 2011, Kingsley called the police for help. When the police arrived, he was sectioned under 136. So the 136 gives the police the power to hold anyone who's acting in a delusional state. However, Kingsley was sectioned, and within 72 hours, he was dead. So there was a disturbance 3 days later at the mental health institute where he was staying. However, when we had arrived, Kingsley was transferred and sedated for a period of 2 hours. So he was in a prone position, and prolonged restraint contributed to his death, and that's what the inquest found in 2015, which was last year.
What did the justice do about this case?
Okay, the CPS have only just started to prosecute, so our main case actually begins on the 31st of October, which is this coming Monday. So a lot of people are actually aware of what's actually happening, but in terms of the CPS prosecuting, they have decided to prosecute just 3 of the officers for perjury, so basically lying on oath.
And now, what do you expect?
We're expecting criminal charges to proceed. However, that's the reason why we're here campaigning. It's been 5 years since he died, and we're still campaigning for justice up until this day, until present. Yeah.
Can we have all the families near the front, please? Start gathering at the front. Only families at the front. Only the families at the front, please.
Rebecca did not die in a police custody, but in a mental hospital. You are the father. Tell us the story. She was a girl who was just 18.
That's correct. She was 18, and she was sent to a mental hospital one day after her 18th birthday, and then 3 months later she died in that mental health hospital.
Why she was sent to this hospital? Maybe there was an alternative. She could be at home. Huh?
The alternative, at a meeting it was agreed that Rebecca would come home, but because of lack of funding, not enough money, she couldn't come home, so they sent her to a mental hospital instead. And she was distraught. She was looking forward to coming home. Everybody was happy, and they sent her there without any warning. And she was sent there, and like I say, 3 months later she was dead. And it's a system that killed her.
What did the coroner say?
The coroner said the death was avoidable. It should never have happened. She said the very people who should have been looking after her are the ones that actually let her down. And this is just a reflection on this mental health system that we have at the moment. It appears nobody actually cares. Mental health has still got a stigma attached to it, and so long as it's kept out the way, nobody really cares, and we intend to make sure that people know about it. It is totally unjust, unfair. Our daughter should be with us today.
Greg Revel died in a prison in Leicester. You are the mother. Tell us the story.
Yes, Greg went into Leicester on the Monday after being in police custody all weekend, and he died on the second night because he was put in a cell alone, even though he asked to go in share because he had mental health problems. They never went on the computer and read his mental health history, which then led to him being alone and took his life on the second night in custody. He had no duty of care given to him. It was just a number, put in a cell alone, where he should have been put on suicide watch.
Now, who are you blaming for this tragedy?
I blame the prison, Glen Parva Young Offenders Institute, 100%. They killed my son.
What do you demand now? A new investigation, a trial?
No, I can't have that now. We've had his inquest. The prison was given a lot of recommendations to put into place about things that weren't doing properly, but since Greg's passed away there's been another 3 deaths in the same young offenders, so obviously they're not putting any recommendations into place because the deaths are still happening. Young boys getting no duty of care, no mental health help when they've got mental health problems, which they are entitled to. So I fully 100% blame Glen Parva.